But I'm well equipped to follow that because Tony and I were following Amy and Molly and Andy there since the beginning. Tony and I were roommates for 3 years of college, and we grew in every possible way you can imagine. Some we weren't very proud of, and so we did correct them. We met because we pledged the same fraternity. Cornell University had a lot of fraternities, 55, I think. They had jock houses, they had animal houses, and they had smooth houses. We joined a smooth house. And I know that much has been said about Tony's sartorial habits, but in our fraternity, jacket and tie every night for supper, Wednesday and Sunday, 3-piece suits, 3 formals a year. So that was what we selected out of the fraternity world at Cornell. There was about 3 of those kinds of fraternity houses, and we met right away and became fast friends immediately. The experience of being in that fraternity, I can just hear all of it resonate down the decades in everything everybody has said about Tony. Yes, he was a young Republican. He was an engineering student. I was a chemistry student. I wasn't a Republican because I was a Catholic, and so we voted for Kennedy. That's all I knew. When I was a freshman at Cornell, that was all I knew. But boy, we learned a lot. We had within our fraternity, I guess, what would you call them? Bull sessions. They would go on till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning with Republicans. But these are very honorable and thoughtful Republicans. And I'm sure there might be some out there, but they're hiding. But Tony and I and our roommate Chris, we would talk just nonstop, in the fraternity house. And, some of these, they were mostly upperclassmen, 2 years older than us. They went on to become judge, advocate general, attorneys, and I don't know if Tony's decision to follow into the law had anything to do with that, but boy, our decision to become politically active sure did. So, the Berrigans, we combined the fraternity world and the political action world by going down to the K till 9 trial in Baltimore and stayed at the fraternity house, our chapter in Baltimore. And one of the things that Tony and I used to ponder was, I don't know how to put it, and I don't know how we put it, but there was something the matter with men. And honestly, we knew it. And that's why we didn't join any of those jock houses or those, animal houses, because they were just not fun guys to be around. We came up with a test for how could you tell if a man was going to be a worthy person to get to know. You had to play basketball with him. and if you played pickup basketball with him, whether it was, 1-on-1, 2-on-2, or 5-on-5, or even intramural organized, you could tell. You wouldn't get halfway through a game before you knew. And it had something to do with when the guy popped you in the jaw, did he say, "Oh, sorry," and picked you up, or something like that. It was hard to describe, but we knew it. And we knew back then that finding quality men to surround ourselves in our lives was going to be our life's work. And I can see that Tony succeeded. There was another thing we talked about. How do we make our kids, which we didn't have, but we all had little brothers and sisters. I'm the oldest of 6, and Tony had all these wonderful experiences with Molly and Andy, and I remember going to your house and Can you do drums?
Yes, good one.
And he would play Happy Sad with you. And he would play, you would sit opposite each other and he would go, happy, and you would go, happy, you know, and he would go, sad, and you would go, sad. And then he would fake you out, he would go, happy, sad. So I've done that many times with my siblings and kids from having watched the way Tony played with you guys. But we were guessing then, and one of the most important things that we were going to be was fathers. And how are we going to raise kids that on the basketball court would demonstrate that they were good men? We decided that love was the answer. And we both were raised in climates where the father didn't noticeably have any love for his kids. Didn't, I mean, he said so, you know, but never played with you. Not like he played with you. You know, not like I played with my younger brother. My father never played with me. Tony's dad never played with his dad or stepdad never played with him like that. So we decided, rightly or wrongly, that we had to demonstrate to our young, particularly boys, that there was a lot of love in the dad. And if you needed any, come to Dad and you will get it. Because we couldn't get it from our dads. And Tony and I were intellectually curious enough to know, that must have made us feel pretty bad. Because we were going to grow up to be him. And so I made it my stated mission, which I shared with Tony, and I don't know if he used these words, but I have twins boys who are now 30. And I made a determination that before they started saying, get away from me, Dad, get away from me, Dad, I was going to give them 1,000,000 kisses. And that would let them know that they could always come to me. So I don't know if Tony thought about the 1,000,000 kisses. I did share that with him many times. And he sure did. And that's one of the best things about Tony. I was going to talk a little bit more about Cornell. I was going to talk about going to, dropping out of chemistry, dropping out of engineering, and picking up government as a study. And so we had all of our classes together. We went to SDS meetings, you know. We basically argued our professional target. We basically argued our progressive positions at late night fraternity arguments with the young Republicans. And I can't say as we ever won, but we together felt like we knew where we were going. Tony and our third roommate, Chris Romley, set up house in a basement apartment. This is a basement apartment that had a lot of pipes running around. And Tony was 6'1", I'm 6'1", our roommate Chris was 6'3". So we would just like walk around the house and go like this, just like that, whatever room we're having to be in. We knew the little ballet to get through the room without banging our heads. Most of our friends that would come visit were short. So they didn't seem to notice that. But we learned to cook, and above all, we listened to music. We listened to music almost all the time. We would lay down on the floor with our heads between the speakers, the three of our heads between the speakers, and listen to something. Delaney and Bonnie comes to mind as an album that was particularly moving to us. And then we would just lay there when it was over, you know, listening to the record go, ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. And eventually one of us would get up and put something else on. And I can remember taking the White Album and turning the turntable backwards. And it would say, turn me on, dead man, turn me on, dead man. Remember that Paul is dead, dating himself again. But those things matter to us. And, you know, we just were so into finding music. Tony and I actually, when we were seniors, we had extra credits available to us. We had finished our major credits. We decided to take a music composition course. We didn't know a thing about what we were talking about. Not a thing. It was in the music department. We thought, oh, this will be fun to learn. You know, I could play guitar. Tony and I could listen to music. So the music course was elementary composition, and it was like a 16th century counterpoint. And these are people who are very, very accomplished at choral composition who were taking this class. We had no idea what we were doing, but we studied it. We worked hard at it. He'd give us a melody line, and we would have to, you know, compose 3 parts that went along with it according to the rules, not according to what sounded good, but according to the rules, and we would do it. And one day, Don Randall was his name. He went on from Cornell University's music department to become the president of the University of Chicago. I don't know how they ever picked him, but he brought us to his office after class one day, and he said, "Tell me what that is." "Well, that's our homework assignment." And he said, "And who signed that?" And I looked at him and said, "Well, I signed this one." Tony said, "And I signed that one. They're the same." And we said, "Of course they're the same. We did it together." And our background as science and engineering students was that lab projects were done together. You handed them in with the same exact result. And you did that kind of cooperative work, because that was how learning was best done. Well, he said, "I have never seen such a tremendous example of cheating in my entire day at Cornell." This is April of our senior year. He brought us up on charges, and he said he was going to get us expelled from the university 1 month prior to graduation. So we had a trial. We had to have character witnesses. And this was like, we thought we had fallen into Notes from Underground. And then they said, "All right, we'll let you know the board's decision in a week." So for an entire week, we wandered around with the axe of Damocles hanging over our heads, thinking, "What are we? They're going to kick us out? We're not going to graduate, you know?" And so we went back, and the drums rolled, and they found us guilty of the most flagrant violation of the principles of academic integrity that committee had ever seen. And they imposed no penalty. So, I hadn't intended to tell that story. just somehow it came up. Oh yes, music. Yeah. Tony and I were best friends for years, and I'm very, very proud to be one of Tony's many best friends. We talk every couple of weeks on the phone. I'm in upstate New York, he's out here. We probably only saw each other about every 2 years. But that was enough. You know, that was enough. We always would call each other up after something that made us want to throw our shoe at the MSNBC TV screen and say, "Did you see that?" And he had seen it, and I had seen it, you know. And we'll always be friends. I felt closer to him in the past 2 weeks. One of my best phone calls with him was, I guess, about the week before he died. He was about to cross into Canada to go to a wedding. And he was so happy. So happy. And he actually, I think we talked probably for maybe 2 hours. And that was it. That he's gone. But he's not gone.
So David White, who's a poet and a naturalist, wrote about friendship, and he said, "The ultimate value of a lifelong friendship is the privilege of having been seen by someone, and the equal privilege of being granted the sight of the essence of another, to have walked with them, and to have believed in them, and sometimes with them, on a journey impossible to accomplish alone. Tony was my friend and fellow traveler for nearly 50 years. We met in Ithaca as Cornell undergraduates, and in 1972, we packed all of our worldly possessions into a two-door white Datsun and Tony and Abby Ginsberg and I drove across country in 3 shifts for 5 days. Tony and Abby were moving for law school, and I was moving for a new beginning. In our 20s, we formed a household, we built community, and we loved and challenged each other into being our best and bravest selves. Lee dubbed it the Grateful Exchange. Across miles, decades, raising families, we worked hard to sustain our friendships. And that commitment took a real practice. It took a practice of deep listening, and especially for me, because I have hearing loss and Tony was a mumbler. It took truth-telling, and at times forgiveness for the ways that we let each other down or showed up as imperfect, or even in small betrayals. That forgiveness was also a practice we needed. And I'm confident that if we did a word doodle of descriptors for Tony, that modest and kind and gentle and funny and smart would all show up in big letters. He was also a seeker, curious and easily delighted. Over the years, as we walked the Albany Bulb or the Berkeley Hills, we talked about life's mysteries and sorrows and astounding beauty. And I've come to see that those conversations will continue in one form of his absence. And I'm pretty sure I won't be the only one continuing my conversations with Tony, invoking his tender sense of wonder. And while we're waiting, I invite everyone to keep breathing.
I would say, and I think it's true, that most people know that law school is not very groovy. But Tony and I met before it began at a National Lawyers Guild formation meeting. And yeah, we did a lot of politics together. But it was the other stuff that we started at law school that brought Tony to us, meaning he and I, that is so valuable today. I don't know how often men who are not gay in their sexual orientation fall in love with each other and love each other, but we did. He showed me those ropes. He showed me how to do it. And in so many ways, helped our dilapidated souls actually become emerging, forming, and then somewhat formed selves. While we were busy assembling each other, we wondered and wandered, we giggled and we dared, and we taught each other how to cry. Yeah, this Tony Baloney man, and that was one of the names I call, I don't know who made that up. But, okay, Jack Roscoe. But he was known alternately as the Baloney Man or Tony Baloney. And there's reason for that. There was some baloney in Tolone. But this Baloney Man, who happened to be on the side, a supplement-pushing, nutrition-seeking, longing sweetheart, was, as LP said, a trier, and many have said, a trier of everything. And actually, more than many things, twice. And those who have seen 3 of the most stacked cabinets any place in the United States, filled with a stash of secret bottles labeled elixir number 1, elixir number 2, elixir number 3. You know what I'm talking about. Those bottles, you'd open that cabinet, and those bottles spoke like James Brown spoke more than 50 years ago. And James Brown said, I'm sure some of you know this, try me, and Tony tried and tried and tried and tried. He did just that. Meanwhile, while all this other stuff was going on, everywhere he was spreading the gospel of optimism. And it just made me ache. I ain't that type. And I would always say to Tony when he'd have this line, this preposterous configuration of hope and optimism, I'd say, come on, man, are you kidding me? No, I'm not. He wasn't. He meant it. He meant it, and he still means it today. Like my mom and dad and my wife, Kristen, Tony was amongst the few that unconditionally loved me. I don't know why or how that was so, but I said to myself early this morning when I was writing this, I slurped it all in like the best popsicle anyone could ever have. My best sense is that our love came about because we permitted the constancy of our fears, our fright, our insecurities, and our vulnerabilities to be and shape the core of our relationship, and thus our love. We led each other into the woods, into the desert, and the very secret parts of Point Reyes, as well as to places like Neil Young said about, quote, the places that had no names. He told me recently that I was his heart doctor. I had never heard words so beautiful. They glistened with love. But he was my heart doctor. And many know what I mean by that. Tony also taught me, and we practiced this, what quiet looked and felt like, and how it could be our strength. We practiced and practiced, and we got pretty good about it. He was right. It could be our strength. The Baloney Man, he's my best friend. I've never had a friend like him. I will not likely have another. I loved the way, did you ever see him eat an orange? I loved the way he ate food. He's a terrible, terrible automobile driver. I'm sorry. He can drive one, but not that well. But they don't make many models like him. It's not like they don't make any models like that anymore. They just never made many models like him, period. And I don't care what folks say. I think there's a split in authority about how stylish he actually is. There's a story out there, and in here probably, that says something like this. Tony Baloney is gone. We're going to miss him. Not so. Our hearts are the ones that will tell us about that, not the narrative. Our hearts are not likely, and actually I don't believe we'll let him go. Thank God. I love you, Anthony.